All right, so I'm Nathan from Sound Design Live, and today I'm here with Aleš Štefančič from Gain Media Lab and Scott Adamson from the Production Academy. And I invited these guys here today because when we all started out, I think there was pretty much nowhere to study audio online, and now there are a couple of places to study audio online when it comes to live production, mixing front of house, stuff like that. I really like what these guys are doing, and I thought maybe one way I could help people understand what they have to offer and also decide if they think it would be a good fit for them would be to kind of compare and contrast what these two different courses could do for you. So from Aleš, you've got Guerrilla Mixing, which is more of an intermediate level course, and from Scott, you've got Essential Live Sound, I know I would fuck it up, Essential Live Sound Training, which is appropriate for beginners to start. And it has a bunch of lessons in there that are kind of at that level. So that's all I'll say here at the beginning. And I'm going to talk to each of them about it. But before we do that, Scott, what was the last show you worked on?
Well, actually, the last show I worked on was last night for an artist named Liz Fair. Liz Fair. She, became popular in the late 90s, part of the alternative rock kind of movement that was happening at that time. Really great, really awesome. She's been on a bit of a hiatus, but she just came out with a book and is coming out with a new record soon. So she's kind of ramping up, doing some shows. It was super fun, really nice people, really nice crew, nice band and everything. So really had a good time. It was the show was up in Woodstock, New York, upstate, at a small radio station, actually, WDST. It's a long-time alternative rock station. I think they were probably playing Liz Fair's record, Exile on Guyville, when it came out in the 90s. So it was really fun. Went up there. It's, pretty small performance space, a small town. So
so you weren't just mixing for the broadcast. It was actually for a live show.
It was for a live show. Actually, I don't think it was broadcast at all. It was just the show happening in the radio station's performance space there.
Cool. Could you share with us maybe one thing that you learned on the show? Well,
so since it was a pretty small space, they didn't really have big fancy digital consoles or anything like that. They had a 16-channel small Soundcraft analog console. I don't usually get to mix on those that often, but all the outboard gear was all the compressors and gates and everything were all outboard and patched in via single point inserts on the console. So the send and return were unbalanced going through that single point insert on the console. And it was pretty bare bones setup. And I don't usually get to see that kind of setup too often. So it was really good for me to actually go in and see that setup. And when there were problems with some of that gear, like when one of the compressors wasn't working, I had to go and kind of trace down the cabling and trace down the signal path just to make it work correctly.
So what did the problem end up being with that compressor?
It was just the input and output on the actual outboard unit were backwards. Okay. So the send was actually plugged into the output of the compressor, which is backwards. So I just flipped those and got it working pretty easily. But it was a good reminder that, you have to kind of know those fundamentals and know the fundamentals of troubleshooting and really be able to kind of be quick with that stuff to make the show happen, even if you're used to working on digital consoles when a compressor and a gate is just a button click away. So
sure. Cool. And what about you, Aleš? What's the last show you worked on?
Well, the last show I worked on was a festival of trap music.
Raindrops, drop top, smoking, no cooking, the hot box.
And the thing that sort of I took away from that show was that when artists came with their own vocal effects units, like autotune stuff.
I've got a picture.
Units like that. Those units, when put in line of that signal, tend to be problematic in various ways. One of them proved to be consistent with all of the units was that they emit sort of a high pitched noise that I had to really notch out with different filters for almost every performer that was using that.
Oh, wow.
Plus, there were gain issues and stuff like that, but the noise was something that surprised me. And now I know to look for that for any other show that I might do for that genre, or for any performer that might be using the same units in the future.
Interesting. So when you look for that in the future, is that just going to tell you, okay, I'm going to have to do that notching EQ again? Or are you going to try and find a different solution? Like what would you have preferred to do?
I would have preferred to have the control of the units like next to the console, whatever, so I can monitor the input gain, the output gain of those units, making sure that I have all my levels set correctly. But unfortunately, since most of the times we can't do that, it's just a mental note to say, okay, I've encountered this before, don't be alarmed. Don't go freaking out thinking that it could be something else, like a bad cable or something wrong with the PA system.
Oh, sure, like anywhere else in the system.
Yeah, and the system, like, okay, I've experienced this, so I know it's probably emitting from that piece of gear.
Right. Scott, have you ever run into these out in the field, or any of the artists you're working with using these?
Well, unfortunately, I have run into them out in the field. Fortunately, none of the artists I'm working with uses these. If artists are really getting up to the point where they're hiring crew and running full production, they're going to have the control for any vocal effects at the consoles. It's just kind of the way that things should operate. Even if performers need to change their own effects on stage, you can work out MIDI switchers or MIDI controllers to change effects in Ableton sessions. There are a number of ways to deal with effects, but I feel like you see the pedals when it's really bands just starting out. They don't have their own engineers, and they have a specific effect that they want to hear on their voice, and just think that using that pedal is the best solution. But
sure, guitarists are doing it, bass players are doing it. Why can't I do it?
Yeah, totally. And it does. Apart from noise issues, it does cause gain issues, which really cause a lot of engineers a lot of headache. And you don't get good gain before feedback through those pedals. Turning it up in the monitors can get it to be an issue if you have someone that needs to have their vocals really loud in the monitors and in wedges, and has one of those pedals. It's going to be a disaster. So it's always better to not see those around. But I do totally understand why singers want to use them.
Cool. Well, I forgot to ask you, Aleš, where in the world was your show?
Oh, it was in Ljubljana, Slovenia, where I'm based, where I do most of my work. It was a festival of like up and coming artists in this particular genre. So like Scott mentioned, like crews that are just starting out and want to have that specific effect on their vocal, something that they have heard on the records of their idols, and they want to mimic that. So the cheapest solution is to go for that cheap pedal and just put it in line with the signal, which can cause issues down the line for us.
Cool. All right, so let's talk about your courses. So Scott, Essential Live Sound Training. The first question I think a lot of people have is this for me? So could you talk about who is your ideal student?
I'm glad you asked this, because it is really kind of hard. I built this course, and it is kind of hard to explain to people to see if it's right for them or not. It's a hard thing to do. But, I really, when I built this course, I was thinking I wanted to put all of the fundamentals for live sound into one place, so that anybody from zero, you could start completely from scratch and go through this course and be able to get sound to come out of speakers and run a console in a small setting. So it really is anybody. You could be total zero. Or I've had a lot of people that sign up for this course, and if they might have been running shows at different venues for a while, even for years, and they might have some gaps in their knowledge about some technical things with either wireless audio or gain structure or best EQ practices or anything like that. So a lot of those people have had pretty good results taking this course. the essential live sound training and just kind of filling out the gaps in their knowledge. So you could really, have some experience or some knowledge. You could be a musician who has to deal with live audio stuff from time to time, and this course can really help you out. But it really is, like you said, more on the fundamental level, beginners or, lower intermediate people who want to just kind of get that really solid understanding of all the audio fundamentals for live sound.
Nice. And to kind of compare and contrast, Aleš, what would you say is the ideal student for Guerrilla Mixing?
Judging from what Scott just said, everybody who's finished Scott's course. But it's basically intermediate users of digital consoles, people that already know how to maybe connect a microphone, connect the sound source to the console, have the sound come out of the speakers. Maybe they are using their consoles for running audio on a regular basis now, and just are starting to figure out that one of the key elements in sound is time. So how much time you will have to make something sound great. And since we never have enough time to prep either the console or have enough time to do a proper sound check, it's always a great idea to have strategies or some tools in your toolbox that you can reach for when you are faced with these time constraints and when you are faced with the pressure of everybody looking at you to create a good sound with very little time to prepare. So it's for everybody who wants to get more efficient, faster, and more consistent with their work, especially in conditions that we all tend to face. No matter of the size of the production, like time constraints will be your lifelong partner if you decide to work in audio. So having these tools is something that I've found really beneficial. And also the students that have taken the pilot course have testified to the fact that, once they've learned my strategies and went through those courses, they've realized that there are steps you can take to become faster, become more reliable, and become more confident in your audio work.
Cool. Thank you. So just to kind of sum up, it seems like any beginner or anyone at any level, but especially beginners who want to focus on the fundamentals, would want to take Scott's course. And then if you are wanting to become more efficient and faster, especially in non-ideal combat audio situations, that would be more like Guerrilla Mixing.
Exactly.
And now you both touched on this a little bit, but I just want to see if you have anything else to say about what do I get out of it? I think that's kind of the second thing a lot of people are wondering when they're taking a look at the sales page or taking a look at your course. Like, by the end of it, what am I going to be able to do? It's kind of a weird thing to try and talk about things online, right? Because if you're at a grocery store, you could like pick up an apple and like smell it and oh, this is going to taste great. But with courses online, like, how do you figure that out? So what do you say to this, Scott? What's in it for me?
Well, I think what's in it for any potential user is to have confidence that your knowledge of all the fundamentals is solid. Like all of us sound engineers who do live music, there is no definitive resource to cover all this stuff, all the stuff that we do for live music production. So most people that I know, including myself, like coming up, learning all this stuff, I would have an idea of what everything did. And I was always kind of shy and didn't want to ask and talk to people. So I always had some kind of question in my mind if what I was thinking was actually the correct way electronically or any of the concepts, the higher concepts of sound were really right. So this course will give you that confidence that all those fundamentals are great. And then once you get there, then you can start to expand into more advanced audio techniques, advanced digital console techniques, and like Aleš said, like getting better at your craft and learning that sort of thing. But having a really great understanding of the fundamentals and confidence that you do have the correct understanding of those fundamentals, I think it's a very valuable tool for any audio engineer.
Yeah, there's nothing like having that confidence, especially when you get into the field and you're like, wait, does this thing plug in like this or does it plug in like this? That doubt can not only slow you down, but then, also be distracting because it's like hundreds of decisions we need to make when we're getting into a show, right?
Absolutely. And, like Aleš said, it was like the time constraints are always going to be there in live music production. The pace can be pretty fast. So if you do have great fundamentals and are able to employ good time management techniques and good strategies, like he's teaching in his course, then you'll be very hireable, very efficient, and very effective as an audio engineer for live music.
Cool. So what do you think, Aleš? What am I going to get out of Guerrilla Mixing?
Well, the entire course is based on a premise that even if we have like lots of knowledge about audio, how to set the compression, how to set the EQ, what we need to focus on in guerrilla mixing situations and these combat time constraint situations is what are the essentials? Like what is it that I can strip away to focus on the basics, on the fundamentals, on the nitty-gritty. I like to talk about this as a 80-20 rule mixing, where you can do 20% of the things to achieve 80% of the desired sound. So trying to figure out what those basic elements are is at the core of my course. So once you learn everything that Scott has to offer in his course, which is like everything that you need to know, my course will teach you, okay, out of all of that vast knowledge that you now have, what are the specifics that you need to do in terms of either checkpoints or basic steps that you need to take to get the show up and running with zero prep time under extreme time conditions, time constraints, and have the best possible sound in those situations.
That's cool. What I'm sort of realizing from hearing both of you right now talk is that while probably in Scott's course, I'll learn like what all the knobs do on a compressor or everything I need to know about the fundamentals of how a compressor works, then in Aleš's course, I might learn, what are maybe the best starting point so that I can, get into the show without worrying about it. Maybe what are one or two knobs I really need to focus on to just get that 80%, the minimum action I need to take to get the maximum result.
Yeah, that is a great way of putting it. I would also say that since audio in general is such an elusive concept, like I cannot say, okay, put the threshold at -26 dB and then you will be set for all genres all the time with every input. That's your like starting point. It doesn't work that way. What I can do is explain the mental process that I go through when I'm deciding on what to do. So that's basically what my course is about. Not only saying, okay, I would usually start from this point, but I will also explain why I start from this point. And the mental process of eliminating all of the other things and just focusing on 2 or 3 specific controls. And then you can go back and turn guerrilla mixing into regular mixing once you've reached your basic goals of having some sound coming out of the speakers in a very controlled fashion.
Cool. Well, let's wrap up with the financial and time commitment, because once I know, if this course is for me and what I get out of it, then I need to figure out like, is this an investment I can make in my business right now? And not only with money, but am I going to have the time to actually get the results? And I know both of your courses don't really have deadlines. I could do them in shorter or longer periods. They're both self-paced. It would be cool to know what you see other people doing in terms of how long it takes them to get through it, or how long it takes them to get to some milestone where they get to some, big result. So Scott, how much does your course cost, and what sort of time commitment do you think it will take for me?
Right. Well, that last bit is kind of difficult to answer, honestly, just because everyone kind of comes into audio with different experiences and different levels of knowledge. And that's why I do a subscription month-to-month service for the Essential Live Sound Training. It's $29 a month. I've seen people come in with a good amount of audio knowledge already, people that have been running shows and want to just kind of plug the gaps in their knowledge and make sure that they have a great grasp on all the concepts. And people can come in for a month and be done, and it totally benefits them. And then that's all good. But I've also had people start from scratch, maybe not have as much time to dedicate it, and take 6 months, 8 months to go through the course. So I still do it at $29 a month. I do offer an annual subscription and I have seen a lot of schools and churches sign up for that. So some churches might have an audio team, maybe 1 or 2 people that they need to train and get their services up and sounding great. So a yearly subscription for those institutions works well. So it really just depends on what level the student is coming into the course. But that is why I do a month-to-month subscription, because it really varies on what people need to get through the entire program.
Cool. So it sounds like it could be a little bit up to me. Minimum financial commitment of $29. And then maximum would be however long I want to stay. And I know that you are adding more videos and updating it as well. So it's however long it takes me to get through as many lessons as I want, plus if I want to see the new content you're putting in, right?
Yeah, I must, full disclosure, probably not planning on adding too much to it over the next 6 months, 8 months. So someone was disappointed once and emailed me wondering why it wasn't putting more content up every month. So I do want to say that, but it is very complete. I mean, there are over 100 videos in this program. There's over 6 hours of training. A lot of it's very dense. There's a lot of diagrams that animate to help demonstrate abstract concepts and stuff like that. So there's a lot to go through. There are quizzes for each and every video. So there is quite a bit to go through. There is that, but it's not really constantly updated month to month.
Okay, great. I appreciate that both of you guys are still working on a lot of shows, and I think I would prefer to take courses from people who are kind of out there doing the thing that I want to be doing, and have sort of up-to-date relevant information. It would be different, not bad, but it would be different if your course was created maybe 20 or 30 years ago and you hadn't actually worked on any shows in 20 or 30 years. And I would say that's common for all of us here that are teaching right now. If you want to, part of Guerrilla Mixing, I know with Aleš's course, is that you get at least one private lesson with him when you sign up. Part of the deal is that Aleš still works on shows, so you'll have to see, when he's available. So there's this sort of balance of, taking courses from people who are still working out in the industry means that they're not as available, but then the information is highly relevant. What about you, Aleš? What's going to be my financial and time commitment for Guerrilla Mixing?
If you focus on the time commitment, it's probably similar to what Scott explained. I have over 40 video lessons. Each lesson has quizzes and checks your progress throughout the course, but it depends on your involvement and the time that you want to spend, so it's really self-paced. Like you mentioned, I offer private lessons. It just gives me an opportunity to then take whatever you have learned throughout the course, or if you maybe have any questions, we can talk about those questions, or talk about something specific related to your personal work. that we can figure out and maybe improve or comment on. So it's really trying to be tailored to a student's personal needs. I have two versions of this course. The standard version will offer all of the video material with lifetime access, plus one private lesson, which is 30 minutes of conversation with me, and 1 month of participation in an online community, which I think is really beneficial because you sort of get involved with other people in the field of audio, not necessarily just working on Guerrilla Mixing, but working on other stuff as well. So it's a great resource, not only for the knowledge, but also maybe for furthering your network of contacts that might help you with building your career. So in the standard version, like I said, 1 month of that online community participation. In the accelerated version, you have 3 private lessons with me and 6 months of being a part of that online community. The standard version is $97. The accelerated version is $197. But we offer a great discount of $50 for the next few days, at least for now until October 20th. So if you're interested, now is the time to sign up.
Cool. Thank you guys so much for being here to talk about each of your courses. I hope that people watching this video who have any questions will follow up with you. Obviously, you can post comments below this video, but beyond that, if anyone wants to reach out to you directly, Scott or Aleš, what is the best way for them to do that?
Well, for me, it's just scott@theproductionacademy.com. Get back to you as quickly as I can via email. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can also find me on Instagram if you want to check that out. It's at the Production Academy.
Cool. What about you, Aleš?
Yeah, for me, it's my website, gainmedialab.com. There's a contact site where you can reach me. Also on social media, just type in Gain Media Lab and I will pop up. On Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, whatever you're using, I'm usually up there. So yeah, that's the best way to reach me.
Great. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Bye.
Bye.